I think I will read the little section from the 4th Alcatraz book. How about that? Though I will excise any spoilers from the previous books. So, reading this one, you will know that that the main character survives the previous 3 books, but since it's also a first-person story told by the hero, then it's not giving too much away to say that he survives because he wrote the books himself. So, so there I was, holding a pink teddy bear in my hand. It had a red bow and an inviting, cute, bear-like smile. Also, it was ticking. Now what? I asked. Now you throw it, idiot, Bastille said urgently. I frowned, then tossed the bear to the side, through an open window into the small room filled with sand. A second later, an explosion blasted back through the window and tossed me into the air. I was propelled backward and slammed into the far wall. With an arc of pain, I slid down and fell on my back. I blinked, my vision fuzzy. Little flakes of plaster, the kind they put on ceilings just so they can break off and fall to the ground dramatically in an explosion, broke off the ceiling and fell dramatically to the ground. One hit me in the forehead. Ow, I said. I lay there, staring upward, breathing in and out. Bastille, did that teddy bear just explode? Yes, she said, walking over and looking down at me. She had on a gray-blue militaristic uniform and wore her straight silver hair long. On her belt was a small sheath that had a large hilt sticking out of it. That hid her crystal blade. Though the sheath was only a foot long, if she drew the weapon, it would be the length of the regular sword. Okay, right. Why did that teddy bear just explode? Because you pulled the pin out, stupid. What else did you expect it to do? I groaned, sitting up. The room around us, inside the New Holland Royal Weapons Testing Facility, was white and featureless. The wall where we'd been standing had an open window looking out onto the blast range, which was filled with sand. There were no other windows or furniture save for a set of cabinets on our right. What did I expect it to do, I said. Maybe play some music, say mama. Where I come from, exploding is not a normal bear habit. Where you come from, a lot of things are backward, Bastille said. I'll bet your poodles don't explode either. No, they don't. Pity. Actually, exploding poodles would be awesome, but exploding teddy bears, that's dangerous. Well, duh. But Bastille, they're for children. Exactly. That way they can defend themselves, obviously. She rolled her eyes and walked back out over the window and looked out onto the sand-filled room. She didn't ask if I was hurt. She could see that I was still breathing, and that was genuinely good enough for her. Also, you may have noticed that this book starts with Chapter 2. You may be wondering where Chapter 1 went. Well, it turns out that I lost it. Don't worry, it was kind of boring anyway, well, except for the talking llamas. I climbed to my feet. And in case you were wondering, I wasn't. I'm fine. Great. I frowned, walking up to Bastille. Is something bothering you, Bastille? Other than you? I always bother you, I said. And you're always a little grouchy, but today you've been downright mean. She glanced at me, arms folded. Then I saw her expression soften. Yeah. I raised an eyebrow. I just don't like losing. Losing, I said. Bastille, you... Inserts explanation of what happened in the last book that I am going to cut so that you don't have to have spoilers for the last book. You've done what you could, I've done what I could, it's time to let others handle things. She didn't look happy about that. Fine, let's get back to your explosives training. She wanted me well prepared in case the war came to Valhalla. It wasn't likely to happen, but my ignorance of proper things, like exploding teddy bears, had always been a point of frustration to Bastille. Now, I realize that many of you are as ignorant as I am. That's why I prepared this handy guide to explain to you everything you need to remember about my autobiography in order to not be confused by this book. I put the guide back in Chapter 1. If you ever have trouble, you can reference it. I'm such a nice guy. There is no Chapter 1. And if you aren't familiar with this series, it's about a boy who discovers that librarians secretly rule the world. They are trying to conquer an extra continent that actually exists out in the middle of our ocean, but the librarians have kept you all from finding out about it. So that's where they are right now. Bastille opened one of the cabinets on the side wall and pulled out another small pink teddy bear. She handed it to me as I walked up to her. It had a little tag on the side that said, "Pull me," in adorable lettering. I took it nervously. Tell me honestly, why do you build grenades that look like teddy bears? It's not about protecting children. Well, how do you feel when you look at this one? I shrugged. It's cute, in a deadly destructive way. Kind of like Bastille, actually, I thought. It makes me want to smile. Then it makes me want to run away screaming since I know it's really a grenade. Exactly, Bastille said, taking the bear from me and pulling the pin, out. She tossed it out the window. If you build weapons that look like weapons, then everyone will know to run away from them. This way the librarians are confused. That's sick, I said. Shouldn't I be ducking or something? You'll be fine, she said. Ah, I thought. This one must be some kind of dud or fake. At that second, the grenade exploded outside the window. Another blast threw me backward. I hit the wall with a grunt, and another piece of plaster fell on my head. This time, though, I managed to land on my knees. Oddly, I felt remarkably unharmed, considering I'd just been blown backward by an explosion. In fact, neither explosion seemed to have hurt me very badly at all. The pink ones, Bastille said, are blast wave grenades. They throw people and things away from them, but they don't actually hurt anyone. Really? I said, walking up to her. How does that work? Do I look like an explosive expert? I hesitated, with those fiery eyes and dangerous expression. The answer is no, Smedry, she said, flatly folding her arms. I don't know how these things work. I'm just a soldier. I picked up a blue teddy bear and pulled the tag. She picked up a blue teddy bear and pulled the tag off, then tossed it out the window. I braced myself, grabbing the windowsill, preparing for a blast. This time, however, the bear grenade made a muted thumping sound. The sand in the next room began to pile up in a strange way, and I was suddenly yanked through the window into the next room. I yelped, tumbling through the air, then hit the mound of sand face first. That, Bastille said from behind, is a suction wave grenade. It explodes in reverse, pulling everything toward it instead of pushing it away. I said, since my head was still buried in the sand. Sand, it should be noted, does not taste very good, even with ketchup. I pulled my head free, leaning back against the pile of sand, straightening my oculator's lenses and looking back out the window, where Bastille was leaning with arms crossed, smiling faintly. There's nothing like seeing a Smedry get sucked through a window to improve her mood. That should be impossible, I protested. A grenade that explodes backward? She rolled her eyes again. You've been in Valhalla for months now, Smedry. Isn't it time to stop pretending that everything shocks or confuses you? I wasn't pretending. I'd been raised in the Hushlands, trained by librarians to reject things that seemed too strange. But Valhalla, a city of castles with nothing but strangeness. It was hard not to get overwhelmed by it all. I still think a grenade shouldn't be able to explode inward, I said, shaking sand off my clothing as I walked up to the window. I mean, how would you even make that work? Maybe you take the same stuff you put in a regular grenade, and then you put it in backward. I don't think it works that way, Bastille. She shrugged, getting out another bear. This one was purple. She moved to pull the tag. Wait, I said, scrambling through the window. I took the bear grenade from her. This time you're going to tell me what it does first. That's no fun. I raised a skeptical eyebrow at her. This one's harmless, she said. It's a stuff-eater grenade. It vaporizes everything nearby that isn't alive. Rocks, dead wood, fibers, glass, metal, all gone. But living plants, animals, people, perfectly safe. Works wonders against alivened. I looked down at the little purple bear. Alivened were objects brought to life through dark oculatory magic. I had once fought some alivened created from sentient romance novels.
Oh.
Book one. This could be useful, I said. Yeah, she said. Works really well against librarians, too. If a group is charging at you with those guns of theirs, you can vaporize the weapons that leave the librarians unharmed. And their clothing? I asked. Gone. I hefted the bear, contemplating a little payback for being sucked through the window. So you're saying that if I threw this at you and it went off, you'd be left kicking you in the face? Bastille said coolly. Yes, then I'd staple you to the outside of a tall castle and paint dragon food over your head. Right, I said. Why don't we just put this one away? Yeah, good idea. She took it from me and stuffed it back into the closet. So I noticed that none of those grenades are, well, actually deadly. Of course they aren't, Bastille said. What do you take us for, barbarians? Of course not, but you are at war. Well, that's no excuse for hurting people. I scratched my head. I thought war was all about hurting people. That's librarian thinking, Bastille said, folding her arms and narrowing her eyes. Uncivilized. She hesitated. Well, actually, even the librarians use many non-lethal weapons in war these days. You'll see if the war ever comes here. All right, but you don't seem to have any objections to hurting me on occasion. You're a Smedry, she said. That's different. Now, do you want to learn the rest of these grenades or not? That depends. What are they going to do to me? I think I will go ahead and stop there, because now we go into a big explanation relating to what happened in the previous book that I don't want to spoil.